name's Bond. James Bond.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Bond vs. Godzilla, the podcast that compares and contrasts two of the longest-running film series in cinema history. My name is Cruz Moore, and I will be your resident Godzilla expert on this show. Joining me on this cinematic journey for however long it lasts are three of my very good friends who each have their own history and experience with both film franchises. Bond expert Jacob Roberts.
I need to lay down.
Audio engineer Willie Crook.
I'm here to announce that the next Bond movie will be called Live and Let Tomorrow Never Dies Another Day.
And digital artist Chas Lemons.
I'm Charles Lemons, and whatever happened to Christmas Jones?
That is a deep cut reference. Thank you.
On today's episode, we'll be tackling Die Another Day from 2002 and Godzilla vs. Destoroyah from 1995. So without further ado, Jake, give us a backstory on Dr. 9021007.
Korea was just another in a long line of political casualties at the end of World War II and served as one of the many battlegrounds of the Cold War that really never resolved itself. In the 90s, North Korea initiated a heavier militaristic policy. A North Korean spy ship was sunk by Japan in December 2001, and in early 2002, President George W. Bush included North Korea on his naughty list that he called the Axis of Evil. The first few years of the 21st century were a time of fear, and the thought of a North Korean offensive wasn't too far-fetched. The other major real-world influence was the proliferation of African conflict diamonds, specifically to fund the Sierra Leone Civil War, which was in full swing and was the second largest producer of conflict diamonds, resulting in the United Nations placing diamond sanctions on Sierra Leone in 2000. Put these two headlines together, and you get a rogue North Korean warhawk using conflict diamonds to fund an insurrection with a space laser. The primary goal of Die Another Day was to celebrate both James Bond's 40th film anniversary and the 20th film in the series. For this reason, Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli wanted to go all out with this one. They brought in New Zealander director Lee Tamahori, known for Once Were Warriors, and Neil Purvis and Robert Wade returned to write the screenplay, although many changes to the overall script occurred mid-filming at the demand of Tamahori. Thus, do we end up with hovercraft chases, sword-fighting Bond, an elaborate palace made out of ice, and the most egregious use of CGI in the entire series, with invisible cars and space lasers. For these reasons, general perception of this film tends to be mixed to negative. And yes, I would say that this film is a bit of a mess, but you know what? I don't care. While I recognize the sheer stupidity that this film may present, to me it has always been a guilty pleasure. If I could describe Die Another Day in one word, it would be fun. It is so over the top and ridiculous that I can't help but have a dumb smile on my face whenever I watch it. But what really matters is what you guys thought of the original timeline's epic finale.
I think everything that you just described, like the fact that we're still tapping into the current events and yet taking all the elements that we've had so far with all the Bonds that we've seen and turning it into a giant, explosive, dumb cocktail that, like you said, is just pure fun. Like, it makes me want to, like, kick down the door on every person who said, oh yeah, this movie, yeah, the invisible car and the tidal wave, oh, it's so bad. Guys, shut the fuck up. Like, in the context of the series, this movie is one of the best in the series. There is nothing wrong with it aside from the most notable flaw, which is the god-awful theme song.
Yeah. Like,
Madonna!
I feel like this movie stares down all of the Bond parodies that had come out in like the last 20 to 30 years and says, fuck you.
I'm gonna do it myself.
I am going to one-up you and look better doing it.
I love that.
This movie is one of the reasons why I feel like I say Brosnan is my least favorite Bond. Brosnan is like the most superhero Bond.
Yeah.
And it just feels so over the top.
Doesn't get more superhero than this.
And every time I think of Brosnan, I think of that weird smug look on his face as he's driving a car getting away from a guy. I can't vocally describe it. But
Brosnan is the Bond who is always in control of the situation. He never gives in to fear or panic, even when things go wrong for him. He keeps a British stiff upper lip, and he tackles everything that gets thrown at him with, this aplomb and gravitas.
Even if it means being stuck in North Korea for 18 months, turning into Jesus 14 months, and then pretending to die and then just resurrect himself in order to just get out of the hospital. Yeah, nothing shakes this guy.
See, he didn't pretend to die. He put himself into cardiac arrest.
Right.
Like apart from like the very beginning of this movie, like after the hovercraft chase, he kind of always seems like he has like at least 3 backup plans for anything that can possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
And Brosnan pulls it off to make it look natural.
Because once again, we're tapping into his like mortality, and once it kind of feels like Skyfall in a sense. But of course, once he gets out, he's just back to normal.
He's just
and
Bond
like, okay,
again.
or whatever. A mortality moment that, like, I don't know if you want to get to it now, but like the whole time we're watching him being tortured and
With some
Just
nice
fucking-
2000s
To dance
pop
music.
playing.
I need to know the backstory behind.
He's being tortured by Madonna.
Like, Barbara Broccoli did not want Peter Jackson to direct the next movie, but she wanted Madonna to do the theme song, which could have went well.
It seemed like
But
a good
it
idea at the
was-
time.
A 21st century pop remix that just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating.
Mom,
It has been stuck in my head for
Right?
the past 3 days.
Right?
Mom, is this Madonna Bond intro going to be repetitive? Well, honey, we're just going to have to. Yes, it is.
Like there's
I don't know. Ask me again in 5 minutes. Hey, Mom, ask me again in 5 minutes.
there's really no backstory to it. Madonna was chosen to make the theme song. It's what she made, and the producers accepted it later.
And then what led to her cameo? So it either had to be Madonna going, I want to do this, or people asking her to do this.
There might have been contractual dealings there. It might have just as been as simple as, hey, wouldn't it be cool if he snuck in Madonna in this scene?
She's not even British, though.
Madonna just has.
Don't tell her that.
Isn't there like a certain set of expectations and rules for like, hey, we've had these incredible musical performances and artists come in to do these themes. Like, you're not allowed to just repeat the same fucking lyrics. I mean, the only comfort I can take is knowing that that is probably the worst Bond theme, and it doesn't get worse after this.
Well, I can give you some comfort if you want some comfort.
Okay.
Die Another Day was nominated for 2 Golden Raspberries, both of them involving Madonna.
Good.
So the theme song was nominated for Worst Original Song,
Original.
and Madonna won the Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress for her cameo.
Good.
It felt
You
like.
can't even call that supporting actress. What the hell?
It feels like she was just there to be like, look, it's me, Madonna.
Ooh. and she's
Behold.
like,
It was
oh
a
my God.
cameo.
It's me.
Not supporting
Every-
actress.
It's me gracing your little spy film.
Everyone
You're welcome.
in that scene is wearing fencing uniforms, except for her in this leather bondage-clad vest for no fucking
She's like,
No, there is a
she's,
reason.
She's like wearing.
It's Madonna.
She's wearing alligator skin with alligator skin pecs. Why?
Thankfully, instead, we got what I consider to be one of the funnest Bond girls in the series, Jinx, played by Halle Berry. What do you think of Jinx?
quite a hard competition between Halle Berry and Rosamund Pike, who both give incredible
Oh,
performances.
they both knock it out of the park with this one, especially when you consider that like this was Rosamund Pike's like first big break, like this was her first big movie. She said once in an interview that the first scene that she filmed for the movie was the scene in which she had to act across the desk from Judi Dench.
Yeah.
And she said, "Yeah, I was scared shitless." It's just this intimidating Judi Dench.
That's great.
I think that works for that scene though, because you see a bit of intimidation in her eyes, but you also see someone who is absolutely trying to make their own in this essentially male-dominated area of expertise.
Because like what I like about Miranda Frost is, you know, she does come hot off the heels of Elektra King with the whole, you know, turncoat. Oh, she's actually the bad guy, but she definitely has a different flavor to her than Elektra King, and the way that Rosamund plays the character, you can buy that. Oh yeah, she was definitely evil the entire time. I can see that. Or you could also buy that. No, yeah, she is just a cold-hearted, business before never pleasure kind of no-nonsense girl to juxtapose Halle Berry. And I think she plays both aspects of the character really well.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike is a snake in the grass, and Elektra is, I don't know, like a monkey with cymbals clapping once you find out that she's the bad guy. But once again, she's a character and actress who, like, oh, that's how you do a female 00 if you were to do one cinematically.
Yeah. I mean, and in two different ways, I would say that about both Frost and Jinx.
Yeah.
You know, both of them could, you know, carry an adventure by themselves if they had to. And that originally was the plan. Originally, Jinx was supposed to had her own spinoff. It was even got so far as being officially announced. We're doing a Jinx spinoff. And it was going to be a prequel about Jinx joining the NSA. And it would have been more in line with the Bourne films, because those were coming out at the same time and kind of sucking away some attention away from Bond, like, oh, who cares about invisible cars? This is the gritty, realistic shit. So they were going to make the Jinx movie to kind of be their answer to that. The film was ultimately canceled because they decided to just reboot the franchise instead.
And
Halle
Berry,
I guess she can live up to her name then.
And Halle Berry would go on to
star in the best superhero movie ever made with a award-winning tie-in video game that is famous for having a pause button.
It's sad to hear about that too, because like whether it was just one film or if it turned into a trilogy, like that time period would have been perfect to do that. Because as much as people celebrate kind of like the new wave for female-led action heroes today, like people forget that in the early 2000s we had Milla Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez and
the only notion I have anything about Halle Berry and the Catwoman movie is fairly certain I remember watching it by renting it off of
You're not allowed to
Time
remember.
Warner Cable.
You're not allowed to
Shut
remember.
up!
any-
You're not allowed to reference Time Warner Cable.
I remember that movie got rented, and I remember watching it with people, and that is all I remember. And I remember the beginning scene.
That's all I remember. I also remember this.
like I remember the beginning scene. Listen, I think it's the beginning. I don't know what point it is, but it's the rocky. I remember like we're walking through rocks and like a little bit of a dancing maybe, and that's it.
Thanks, Willie.
We had Charlize Theron. We had a lot of. We had Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. We had a lot of female-led action and thriller movies.
Uma Thurman also in Nausicaa.
Willie, you're like the physical embodiment of that rule for writing essays of don't include random follow-up sentences and additional details.
Willie,
Kills it in Nausicaa. Come on,
Willie, a reference is not a works cited, and this isn't the place for a works cited.
So about that villain, Gustav Graves, great villain,
Elon
right?
Musk.
Yes. So,
I mean,
So-
with the fact that we have a villain who, you know, he had all the surgery done to turn him into a subverted British man with the stiff upper lip.
yep.
Didn't they at all get suspicious of him when all he ate was Korean food?
Oh
Oh my
Oh,
god.
so that's what we
And
missed
I
all
thought
this time.
I've been politically incorrect here.
Are you actually referencing something from the movie, or?
Well, I mean, think
No,
about it. Like,
no,
can you picture this guy who hates everything about the West eating anything else?
Oh, okay, I see what you're
I mean,
getting at.
he hates everything about the West except for our cars.
Yes, I shall conquer the world. And okay, now here's your bangers and mash.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Finally breaks up the chopsticks.
yeah. Well, Jake, I starts eating beans with the chopsticks. Jake, I really appreciated the scene where he said at the beginning of the movie, "Oh yes, I got my degree in Western hypocrisy," and then it shows all of his European sports cars.
Yeah, which is fun. Like with the pre-title sequence, as you can clearly see, they desaturated all the coloring in order to try to drive home how bleak and oppressive North Korea is supposed to be. And it pans over to those sports cars where it's just like horribly brightly colorful, contrasting on this really dull surroundings.
I think that really worked because when
Yeah.
I started playing it, I was like, "Oh God, don't tell me there's something wrong with our projector." And like, "Oh no, wait, it's part of the film."
I would go so far to say that Gustav Graves is probably the hammiest villain in the entire series.
Probably.
I mean,
One of the best, I think.
he's fun. Like it's just like everything else. Just this that awkward, over the top aspect of him is what makes him so fun. Like this guy doesn't just chew the scenery. The scenery just hops into his mouth whenever he opens it.
And he gleefully chews on it in an open gnash.
Like neither Chaz or I have seen Face Off, but we were watching a highlight reel of the movie today. And yeah, the concept of like, okay, you need to portray someone else's insanity and embody it and convince the audience that you are actually this person underneath this skin. And I think that this guy pulls it off greatly. I'm fully convinced that the original Korean actor is underneath that face.
just under like a Mission Impossible latex mask.
Oh, that would be kind of cool. I kind of appreciate how they illustrate at the beginning of this movie how much of a psychopath he is by showing him punching a bag, and then it's revealed that his therapist is inside the bag.
His not just his therapist, his anger therapist.
That's
Which he
great
says, that'll
introduction.
teach you to lecture me.
Great introduction. My favorite Gustav Graves moment is when he's having that confrontation with Bond, and he says that he based the appearance and personality of Gustav Graves on James Bond. And that kind of makes sense because Gustav Graves himself kind of does feel like this pastiche of James Bond, especially Brosnan's Bond.
Yeah.
It even makes sense that BBC Radio made a series of James Bond audiobooks in which Toby Stevens, who played Gustav Graves, plays Bond in those. So, I would believe Toby Stevens as Bond. And I think he could play the character very easily.
I would in a parody sense because with the way he's portrayed and the way he looks, he does have that like British stereotypical feeling to him. Which with the fact that he says like, "Oh yeah, I modeled it after you." Okay, well you just confirmed yourself as Bond's biggest fanboy then.
I see a lot of Colin Firth in it as well. Yes, you're British. Thank you.
Colin Firth would make a great James Bond.
He would. I would. I mean, that's
Which
kind
I
of the
guess
whole
leads
point
us
that.
to Kingsman?
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point Kingsman exists is
Yeah.
because Colin Firth would make a great James Bond.
And they share probably the only sword fight in the series and an incredible sword fight.
The only
nonetheless.
real sword fight. Yeah,
Yeah.
nuts. I feel like the draft for this movie, especially with a lot of the changes that Tamahori made mid filming, where it just felt like, what's a list of things James Bond hasn't done yet that we can cram into this? Sword fighting, surfing,
fencing.
invisible car.
Surfing, in parentheses, off glacier, question mark?
While also incorporating things that the series has done, but in a very celebratory way. So we have diamonds fused back
Oh
in.
yeah, that was entirely purposeful because this is the 40th anniversary 20th film. This movie was absolutely loaded with references and callbacks. The main one being Jinx rising out of the water in the belt-clad bikini, just like Honey Rider did all the way back in Dr. No. You have a ton of previous gadgets on display in Q's lab, which was super fun. You have
Is that the original jetpack or no?
Yes, as far as I know, that is the original jetpack.
Nice.
You have Gustav Graves skydiving out and landing with a Union Jack parachute.
Oh, right.
The connection with diamonds and their connection to a space laser.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this to you guys before. I'll say it here now.
It's like all the best of.
Yeah.
It's all the golden moments.
And it's always been my personal headcanon that the Icarus space laser is the Blofeld laser from Diamonds Are Forever, and Gustav Graves just managed to hijack and take control of it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
honestly.
I've always just imagined that, that laser has been up there the entire time, just mindlessly orbiting Earth, and then Gustav Graves gets a hold of it and repurposes it.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's always been my headcanon. And even the idea of, the gene therapy lab to change your identity, I feel is a loose callback to Blofeld, who, changes actors and thus changes his appearance every movie.
That and like the face surgery from
the beginning of
Thunderball?
Diamonds.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the beginning of Diamonds,
Okay.
where he's undergoing the face surgery too.
Oh no, I was thinking of the person who pilots the plane.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thunderball, yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you're not feeling charitable, a reference to You Only Live Twice. The tape.
Oh yeah.
Which
Blofeld, we must make you Japanese.
With gene therapy.
Which also leads to there's nothing certain, especially special about this henchman, but he just looks cool.
He looks so cool.
He just looks cool.
He looks so cool.
with the diamonds on
Diamond
his face.
face,
Freaking
yeah.
Zhao.
The really expensive acne.
Yeah, the expensive acne. He's just like he's one of my favorite henchmen. And yeah, look, what he never does anything particularly outstanding, but it's all about that look. The just albino, the diamonds and stuck into his face, the fucking Matrix coat,
Yeah.
he
The
just,
goggles.
He's just cool.
The fact that he practically acts like a Terminator.
Yeah.
He just Zhao is definitely one of the henchmen that I point to when I say I miss memorable henchmen.
Yeah.
Where are the Odd Jobs? Where are the Jawses? Where are the Zhaos?
We're not gonna get one for probably the rest of the series besides No Time to Die.
Yeah, and even then,
the
Spectre, they kind of try with
Yeah,
the
they
Dave
try,
Bautista character. But even when they try to bring in a memorable henchman in the Craig era, none of them really stick the landing. Not in the way that these older characters did.
And he straight up gets owned by a fucking ice chandelier.
That's one of my
comes
favorite
straight
deaths.
down
Yeah.
on him.
It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite deaths in the entire series. Oh, it looks so
we
good.
get
This
some-
one has two of mine: the chandelier and the laser actually going through the guy's fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get some blood in the water for our PG-13 rating, so it's
Woohoo.
appreciated.
Yeah, and also the scene where Bond gets him to drive off that cliff has to be probably my favorite use of the Bond car gadgets that we've seen so
Right?
far.
I mean, the invisible car, yes, it's silly, but they get good use out of it.
So here's the thing. I was awaiting this film for the longest time because I constantly see it in worst
Oh, yeah.
CG examples,
Oh, yeah.
dumbest ideas. And yeah, out of context, seeing the invisible car in the surfing scene, yeah, it looks dumb. But much like in Defense of Escape from LA, once you watch the entire film and you see how ridiculous it is, it's fine. The two movies that everyone says are pieces of shit and have low ratings are Escape from LA and Die Another Day, but it's
Yeah.
we sit down and we watch these films and we go, oh, there's nothing out of place about this scene. It works perfectly in the world it's created.
Yeah.
Does it look perfect? No, but
No,
does
it's
does it make sense for Brosnan?
It's
Absolutely.
definitely early 2000s era CG.
Yeah.
And boy, hell, can you tell that.
But it's do I believe that Bond can do this in this film? Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
to sum it up, James Bond is fighting in a crashing plane against a North Korean man who's been turned into a British man wearing a robot suit that controls a space laser, while camo-dressed Halle Berry fights scantily clad Rosamund Pike with swords.
And
Tell me that's not a good
zero
movie.
of that was exaggeration.
Right.
That was zero exaggeration. That is literally what happens.
Yeah. I loved a lot of the one-liners. Some of them were a little bit like, okay, you've said 3 in a row, my guy, move on. But then there were some really good ones by both hero and villain.
But see, like, we're tough critics when it comes to that, because, like, every time, there have been times where it's happened and we'll just be like, boo. But this one, like, every single fucking one-liner, we were just going, hey. It's like Saved by the Bell. It's like, you know what? That fucking works.
So it's like,
works.
fuck off,
I
you
can't-
asshole.
I can't even be mad. Well done.
The one that doesn't fucking work, big surprise, is done by Madonna when she's like, no thanks. I don't want to watch a cockfight. And it's just dead silence in
Thanks,
the theater.
Madonna.
I'm like,
Have a good
go
one.
home.
Here's your paycheck.
And then Halle
I
Berry.
smiled at that one. I do like that one. That one's good.
It
I-
made
No.
me crack.
I appreciate
It
it.
made me
No.
crack a smile too. But god damn, she's so smug.
And then Halle Berry gets her own of just like, read that, ... bitch. Like, yes.
The character of Mr. Chang, who Ains Bod in Hong Kong, was originally envisioned to be Wei Lin, but they couldn't get Michelle Yeoh back.
Come on.
The air hostess who serves Bond his shaky martini on the turbulent plane is Deborah Moore, the daughter of Roger Moore.
Oh.
Cool.
Well, speaking of the hotel attendant,
Yeah.
can we talk about how Chaz has this inherent racism of misidentifying actors?
What?
we get to the
Oh,
lobby.
right.
The entire
yeah.
first act, you're like, hey!
We get
no,
to the
there's
Asian
no
lobby
A,
man.
that's
and
not...
he's like, hey, and we're like, okay, Chaz, tell us, who is that? I think that's Ip Man. No, it's not Ip Man.
I caught myself on that. Was like, oh wait, that's not it, man.
And then we go to Cuba and we just run into this random Cuban man and you go, hey, and I'm like, oh, don't tell me he's thinking. And he's like, I think that's Chong. I'm like, no, it's not Chong.
And
Oh, wait, no, you said Cheech. You thought it was Cheech Marin.
And at one point, I just go, God, Madonna's gonna appear and Chaz is gonna entirely miss it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Jake just goes, "Hi, Madonna," and Chaz goes, "Wait, that's Madonna."
the perfect punchline.
I am someone who has never cared for Madonna to begin with, so that was a fairly easy mistake to walk into.
The book that Bond picks up in Cuba to pretend to be an ornithologist is Birds of the West Indies, written by real-world ornithologist James Bond. This book was owned by Ian Fleming and where he stole the name James Bond from.
That's great.
See, they know what they're doing with this film. Fuck all y'all and your 2 out of 5 bullshit.
A record-breaking 20 companies paid $70 million for
Total or each?
total
Okay.
for product placement, including Aston Martin, Jaguar, and Ford to have their cars featured. James Bond Barbie dolls were produced with outfits designed by big-name fashion houses. Die Another Day was criticized by reviewers for all of the product placement and was mockingly referred to as Buy Another Day.
I didn't notice any of it.
Same.
Besides the cars.
And so because of this, the amount of product placement was severely limited for Casino Royale.
I noticed more product placement in Casino Royale than I do
Yeah,
this
honestly,
one.
like,
what the
Die
fuck?
Another Day, I honestly never found the product placement that distracting.
I can't think of
I
any.
can't either. Like the cars are easy because
They're
every
cars.
Yeah.
They're cars.
but
Can't.
but
Yeah, I like, and I'm a stickler when it comes to that. Like, it's so easy to spot either like the fucking, what was it? The carbonated water.
7-Up?
Well, besides 7-Up.
Perrier.
Yeah, Perrier.
Yeah.
That's so,
Much more in your face. Much more
can't, like-
blatant.
because when I think of, as much as I do enjoy the Craigs, I keep thinking of like Sony, Vio.
Oh, so, I mean, Sony might as well have just spray painted their name onto the film with how
Yeah.
much Sony product placement is in the Craig films. The world premiere was at the Royal Albert Hall, which transformed the theater into a giant ice palace. The premiere was absolutely massive, attended by 3,000 guests, including guests of honor Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Roger Moore, George Lazenby, and Timothy Dalton.
Wow.
Connery was invited, but was too busy filming League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
No.
I hope it was worth it, Sean.
It was not.
My face when Daddy Sean is too busy to come to my movie.
My face when people say that Die Another Day is not a good movie. You take that back.
Oh, Cruz, it's only picture 1707.
Oh
out
my
of
god, that's the
800.
fucking face that I'm talking about too whenever he's driving.
It's been there this whole time.
I know, but like I'm just
Well,
now
that's-
realizing that that's the face that he makes whenever he's
That-
driving.
That's
And
just Pierce Brosnan's normal face.
Yeah, Willie.
I know.
Willie.
It's
Willie.
called Smolder.
Willie, that's a third. That's on a third of the screen caps of
No,
him
I
in
know,
this movie.
and I was pointing out that that's
It's on every movie poster.
I know, and that's what I'm saying is like one of the things why I call him my least favorite because it's just that's the face that I
It's-
think of when I see him.
It is this James Bond's defining permanent expression.
It's
like-
the face on every single N64 cartridge.
It's like
Resting smug face.
it's like the modern Jumanji movies. How Dwayne Johnson's character Leo, one of his superpowers is just smolder.
We don't talk about the new.
Yeah,
Jumanji
sorry,
movies.
Jake. You're not gonna. No, we
I
aren't gonna.
used-
I'm not gonna get that, and I don't. Cruz, did you see the new?
No, I
Jumanji?
fucking didn't.
Yeah, I don't get it either. So
Roger Moore hated this movie. He said that the
come
film
on,
was too
Roger.
outlandish, and this is, in his words, coming from the first Bond in space.
yeah,
I was
Roger.
just thinking that Moonraker is so much more over the top than this movie.
It is also Brosnan's least favorite of the Bonds he
Oh
made.
come on, guys!
Yeah. The car chase out on the frozen lake was actually filmed in Iceland as much as possible. Took over 4 weeks to film that car chase, and it was incredibly difficult and required specialized customizations for the cars, damming the river to keep the lake frozen, and even then they had to do pickup shots in other countries.
Wow.
That's amazing. You can't film a scene like that and be like, "Yeah, this movie is stupid."
I love the car chase.
Come on.
I mean, what's so
Brosnan.
cool? What's so cool about the car chase is that this is like the only time in the series that we have a proper gadget car battle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two gadget
Yeah.
cars fighting each other.
Yeah,
Come
and
on.
it's not just
Come
a
on.
chase, but like a full-on battle between
Yeah.
two cars souped up with gadgets.
I mean, like you said, Jake, with these Brosnan films, like 2 are considered good and 2 are considered bad. Like for me, Die Another Day and GoldenEye are the shining stars from these 4 films.
I can completely see how at the time that whole too outlandish thing is the problem because it is when you analyze it, yes, it is way too outlandish. That is fact. But I think it has become more okay because once you realize just how fun this fucking movie is, it kind of negates how stupid it is. For lack of a better way to
it's
say
kind of
it.
like how I feel about when Godzilla vs. Kong came out and people were like, "This is goofy and silly." Like, what the fuck are you expecting?
Oh, the
Guys, come on! Look at the
Whi-
poster.
Which Godzilla versus Kong?
The new one.
Yeah, people were saying it was stupid. I was like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you
Like,
people?
What-
The- what part of Godzilla versus King Kong are you expecting to be
High
like
drama.
Yeah, the fucking like the original Titanic of nowadays? What the fuck are you thinking?
I will accept nothing less than Hamlet.
You're not really supposed to be reaching this from an analytical for sort of philosophical angle.
Hey guys, did you know that Godzilla would collapse under his own weight?
Oh my god, I'm smart.
At the risk of getting too deep into Godzilla
Right, we'll go there.
philosophies,
Yeah.
Guys, I know Godzilla's physical structure wouldn't work.
what did I just fucking say, Chaz?
You fucking would, Chaz.
Yeah, I guess, since Willie kind of got the ball rolling, what are our final thoughts on the Pierce Brosnan era? Brosnan as Bond in his 4 movies.
I really do like his era, just not at the top.
I kind of almost wish that we had more movies of his style, kind of, because they strike a really nice balance between like Roger Moore and Sean Connery, and just like the movies have paid like decent homage to both of them, and it's like I kind of wanted more of this era, honestly, especially after Goldeneye.
Yeah, so with Die Another Day finally completing for me all of the Bond films, because I've seen the Craig films beforehand.
You've done it.
Yes, I can say that. Yes, he does kind of combine the best of both worlds of Roger Moore and Sean Connery. It's easy to see why that was the face for all of Bond through the 90s, and just I think in perpetuity. It would have been fun to get more of him, but considering there's only a 4-year gap until Craig, then we wouldn't have gotten Casino Royale with the way that they did it. I think in terms of ranking, if I were to go off the top of my head, I'd probably go Sean, Roger, Brosnan, and then probably Craig and Dalton. And that's not fair because Dalton only got 2 films, so I'd probably actually.
I think Dalton is kind of like a less smoldery version of Brosnan. I still would have loved to see more Dalton movies.
You know what? I think I put Dalton over Craig because Dalton can still give us those insane, crazy faces, and as suave as Craig is, it's not as fun. So that would be my ranking. And I'm not doing Lazenby because he's only in 1 film. But yeah, it's 4 films is such a perfect little sandwich. Yeah, there are 2 in there that are just not that great, but I think the 2 that we got with him were enough to show just how good he was for this time period.
Yeah.
I have great love for this era. Brosnan is my favorite Bond actor because in my eyes, he combines all the qualities that I think are important in a Bond. He is dangerous, sexy, funny. GoldenEye is constantly competing for my favorite Bond film of all time. World Is Not Enough. I really love Die Another Day as a guilty pleasure. And Tomorrow Never Dies, I think is pretty darn good, and it's even gone up in my rankings as time has gone on. So I really have very little bad to say about the Brosnan era. And to me, whenever I watch the movies front to back, it always feels like a breath of fresh air when we get to Brosnan after that long stint of the Moore films, playing it safe, just sticking to the formula, and then, picks up a bit with Dalton. But Brosnan's really the point where they really find their footing and start taking risks again and attacking plot points that, aren't just your standard Bond formula. They try to do a bit more with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I always appreciate the feel, the tone of the Brosnan films that just makes it really stand out above all the others. The Cold War is over. Now what? What is Bond's role in the New World Order? And that's the question that the Brosnan films set out to try to answer. And the Craig films do that as well. The Craig films also have that theme of, do we have room for spies in this new world? But the Craig series has to also deal with the world of post 9/11, whereas the Brosnans are set in this kind of awkward liminal space of time between the Cold War and the age of terrorism.
This movie, it really does kind of like juxtapose the awkwardness of of how free feeling the 90s was. And immediately, this movie was made before 9/11, and then it just gets dropped after 9/11. And when everybody is not necessarily in the mood for a ridiculous, fun-filled movie about international geopolitics.
That makes more sense now that you mention it. Yeah, it's like a decade of imagination because reality isn't too sucky at the moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's play around and kind of, think outside the box, and then...
You guys are making me sad.
I know. We're really thinking about it. We all miss the 90s.
Yeah.
I just want some styrofoam cups with squigglies on it, man. That's all I want.
I can suspend my disbelief for giant tidal, like riding on giant tidal waves and space lasers and invisible cars. But when it comes to mortality, is when you need to present it in a way where I believe that this person will live. Halle Berry was fucking dead. She was drowning for at least a minute. And then, oh, no, this is hot water.
It's fine. The water's hot. She's fine. No CPR.
I love
hot
how
water.
he goes like, oh, it's warm in here.
Come on, Jinx. It's warm in here.
Come on. Why did you answer right there?
Yeah, Cruz, why do you think hot springs are so important in Death Stranding?
Because Norman Reedus.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. That pool of hot water is probably the only thing they got right about Iceland.
For over a decade, the Heisei Godzilla series had brought the famous kaiju back into the limelight with unique stories, updated visuals, and a newfound prevalence in Japan's culture and Western expansion. But on July 15th, 1995, Toho producer Shogo Tamiyama announced that they would be putting Godzilla to rest and ending the series while he was still a star. Godzilla's finale would be titled Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, wherein the world is threatened by a monstrous mutation created by the oxygen destroyer from the original 1954 movie. Meanwhile, Godzilla faces an internal nuclear meltdown that not only threatens his life, but could lead to the extinction of all mankind. Returning for the final film would be director Takao Okawara from Godzilla vs. Mothra and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. Screenwriter Kazuki Omori from Biollante, King Ghidorah, and Mothra, veteran composer Akira Ifukube, and Momoko Kochi, briefly reprising her role as Emiko from the original Godzilla. The cinematic swan song is a triumphant conclusion to the Heisei era, tying itself to the original film and sending Godzilla off on an explosive and tragic note. So, what did my co-host think of I'm Not Crying, You're Crying?
Same.
If we cry enough, Godzilla will come back.
It'll be
New,
like Pikachu all over again.
New favorite installment?
Yeah, 100%. Favorite movie so far.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Like,
This actually beat Hetera for me.
this movie was wild. Is the only thing I can describe. It's the only word that keeps coming up in my head. And when I was talking about it after we saw it, and now is, it was wild. It was a ride from start to finish that never overstayed. No scene I felt like overstayed its welcome. There was a point at near the final third of the movie where all music and all background noise stopped. I noticed it so quickly, and I was just like, that was an amazing choice. Holy shit, that just made this scene that much more intense.
Yeah, that transition to silence, like with the conclusion of the film, we see Godzilla going through a nuclear meltdown and being hit with a bunch of ice bombs that cause him to essentially fall apart and die. Akira Ifukube created this score to just send Godzilla off and pretty much write a death march for him. And then as Godzilla's form fades into nothing, you're right, all the sound effects drop and all the music drops, and there is this still moment of silence of not knowing what's going to happen next. Because we've had all the I love the Heisei era so much. They have the films are a lot of fun, but when we get to this one, there is this sense of like Jake said the other night, the stakes are raised, and now we've had our fun. Now we have something bad.
Shit.
Yeah,
This movie takes itself. Like I said before this one, my favorite was Hetera, which was another one that took itself very seriously and had this very kind of more dark and dour atmosphere to it. This is similar, but in a different vein. I think the thing that struck out to me most about this movie, and there's so many things that I could list off that worked so well in this movie. To me, the thing that stuck out to me the most, though, was the visual design.
Yes.
Just the way this movie looks is so different from anything else we've seen in the series up to this point in terms of the monster designs, set designs, atmosphere, and lighting. There is this just overcasted tone to this movie that, right from the get-go just tells you, say your grandma's Godzilla. This is new. This is big.
Like, the effects alone are really good, but also, like, the model work is, like, just, like, really good in this one. Like, you almost can't
Probably the
tell
most
they're
realistic model work we've seen in the series yet. The ending essentially, focuses on, the humans freezing Godzilla to, I'll say to death. It's, but, it ends with freezing Godzilla, which, of course, connects me all the way back to Raids Again.
Yeah.
And so you have you have Raids Again, and then you have this.
That's how you freeze the monster. And you don't just end up shooting an iceberg for 10 fucking minutes.
But yeah, those final shots of that like the close up that Chaz just showed us, where he's kind of frozen over, and the way he kind of moves his mouth a bit, and the crinkling of the ice. It's just, it's good.
That shot in particular is an example of, at this point, they don't have the budget that American movies do, so their use of CG is going to be very limited. But in that shot, they did do practical, and then let's throw in a little bit CG, and it's practically seamless with how they implement it.
I didn't catch the CG.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Like,
So a little bit of info in terms of the effects. For Godzilla, suit actor Kenpachiro Satsuma, with this being his last Godzilla film, commented on the steam effects by saying, "It was carbonic acid gas. The Godzilla suit only had 12 very small holes to allow me to inhale air. When they used the gas, I'd inhale it and faint. Godzilla nearly died 6 times." Satsuma would later have to wear an oxygen mask for the rest of filming as a precaution. They achieved Godzilla's glowing effects by taking the Godzilla suit from Space Godzilla and putting 200 tiny orange light bulbs inside it.
Oh, it's adorable.
So it had light bulbs in. Oh my god, that had to have been the worst.
They then,
God, 200. My brain 200 on a suit that big would be. Wait, no, it's a 5-foot suit. What the fuck do you mean 200?
So it's really appropriate that we watched this movie on the 26th, 27th, because that basically means Godzilla was a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah. A radioactive Christmas tree.
Can we make our Godzilla movies without trying to kill the fucking main actor, please?
Not possible. They then put semi-transparent vinyl plates over the lights and placed a very thick power cable coming out of the end of the tail. Godzilla's eyes were also modified to glow electronically.
And it looks good.
Like the opening shot of Godzilla,
Just
just like all the red and the orange going through him. You were like, the fuck happened to you?
really bad heartburn.
Yeah, so they just made him the most expensive, pain-inducing action figure.
Yeah,
Like,
it's quite a popular one as well.
I want that one, honestly. I want that one.
Very orange.
Well, I'm not saying I want yours. I'm saying I want one.
There's a good one that you can find nowadays.
I want one.
My friends are really going into these films blind for the most part, so it is quite a jump in quality and expectations when we go from Space Godzilla to, oh, hey, it's got... What the fuck happened?
Yeah, and like I had
Too much wasabi in your sashimi, Godzilla.
It goes from rah 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 to baby Godzilla. No.
Yeah,
First
I
off-
love the effect of, like, they mentioned, oh yeah, we still haven't found Baby. We don't know where he is. And Jake's like, good. And then we cut to Baby in this movie, and it's like, oh, you don't suck anymore.
Yeah. And during the fight, I'm going, kick his ass,
Yeah.
baby Godzilla.
Well, it's funny because, you look at Toa, and you have, the baby Godzilla who is just a marketing gimmick. Then you get into Heisei and, they introduce, the baby Godzilla. But lo and behold, it has narrative importance and a character arc.
Yeah.
What a concept.
Yeah. And for the first two movies to be so bland with him first.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been nice if they had transitioned somehow from, like, the first, like combine these two of the character arcs for baby in, like, the first movie, and then the second one have half of that, and then half of this arc, and then this one have that. There could have been something more going on than just baby Dirt going around being dumb.
Or to put it more succinctly, imagine this movie if we cared about baby Godzilla from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the first,
I may have cried.
I
honestly.
feel like the first act and a half does a fairly good job of like making us like Godzilla much more, or baby Godzilla much more. But what if we'd cared a little bit more this whole time?
I do like that whiplash, though, because it is very much like, God, I hate this kid. God, I hate this kid. Oh, wait, we got to send this kid to college. Here you go. Let's go.
Yeah.
No, wait, I like this kid.
Yeah. And, like, I wasn't sure if they were going to kill him off.
Oh, this kid likes
Like,
Nirvana.
It was so good.
It was crossing my mind, too. There were definitely some moments where I was thinking, are they actually going to kill baby Godzilla? Are they... Because, like, I could see, I'm watching the battles. I'm, like, thinking in my head, okay, there's many different directions this could go. One of them being, kill off the old, have the new one rise, which is what ends up happening. But there's also, hey, we could, like, kill off the kid and have Godzilla go berserk.
Yeah. And like, not only that, as is brought up, go back to being alone.
As part of the film's publicity, that this would be the last Godzilla movie.
Which it wasn't, I'm guessing.
Well, obviously.
Oh, we're not ending this podcast.
Oh, by the way,
anytime soon.
show's over, guys. Bye.
Oh, you meant last Godzilla. I'm talking
the
last of this era.
Right.
It is the last of the era, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to
Yeah,
confirm.
but they marketed it as This is Godzilla
This is
Dying. Toho advertised the film with the tagline, Godzilla Dies, most notably as 20-foot...
Thanks!
Spoiler alert.
Most notably as 20-foot kanji character banners in Tokyo, as well as paving over the famous Toho pool and holding a funeral for Godzilla.
Okay, that's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. that almost makes it worth it.
I almost
Why
hope they...
did you pave over the pool?
To show people, hey, we're not doing Godzilla anymore.
I almost... Oh, man. I almost wish they left a section that was still watery so they could give him a Viking
better
funeral
put
where
it
they
back.
set a boat on fire.
Well,
They better have put Godzilla back, goddammit.
A bronze memorial statue of Godzilla was erected in a public square in the Hibiya Cinema District.
I want one.
It was unveiled in a dedication ceremony attended by actors Akira Takarada and Yasuko Sawaguchi, who played Naoko in 1985 and Erika in Biollante.
He should get a memorial like the Iron Giant.
Oh, that's pretty much comparable, yeah.
Yeah.
Much to Toho's surprise, when the film was released, they received 10,000 protest letters from fans demanding Godzilla's resurrection.
But he's still there. It's just a different Godzilla.
Fans flocked to the Godzilla statue to pay their respects, with many of them leaving 10 to 100 yen coins in his claws and mouth as offerings for the afterlife.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, that is so cool.
Jesus Christ. That's
10 and 100.
That's
you said?
love. That is national love. 10 to 100.
What?
10 to 100.
why didn't Bond get that when he died? God, double standard.
Because James Bond will return. The tagline for No Time to Die was not James Bond die. Speaking of finalities, this is Megami Odako's last Godzilla film as Miki Sagusa.
That's appropriate. It
Agreed.
would honestly be kind of awkward if she came back for another one.
Yeah. She would retire from acting and singing in 2000 due to lingering health issues.
Aww.
Instead, she chose to do office, fast food, and cosmetic work for fun as time went on, as well as appear as a guest at G-Fest. There's an anecdote about how while walking home one day, her path was blocked due to filming for Shin Godzilla. And she thought to herself, "You're making a Godzilla movie and Mickey isn't allowed in?"
It's like,
Do
bitch,
you know who I am?
do you know who
Yeah.
I am? I want to go home.
So I know that we've had mixed feelings about, waifu, Miki Sagusa, and even as an adult, like I can see now how her character isn't the most important, but I do feel like by the end of it, she gets her conclusion.
Yeah,
I would agree. I mean, when she first started out showing up in these movies, she really was just showing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, these last two movies, this one and the previous one, that she actually had a real narrative front to things.
Yeah.
But looking at her, from front to back, looking at it as a whole, she works as a through line for this series, kind of connecting everything, and I appreciate her inclusion, and I think she was treated rather well.
I agree. The biggest thing that she's had as a disservice is her lack of establishment up until the last couple movies.
Yeah. Well, I remember watching the third act battle, thinking that, would they kill off Baby? And I was thinking back to the psychics with Mickey, eventually going in on it, but being hesitant of sending in Baby as this decoy to send in Destoroyah. And I was thinking, like, man, if they actually kill off Baby, that's be kind of Mickey's fault in sort of a way. And I was thinking, like, man, that would just be like really fucked up. And in my head, I'm like, they wouldn't do that. But then another part of me is, no, this movie has been so tragic so far. Maybe they would.
So how do you guys feel about not only Destoroyah, but the wraparound connection to, once again, it's like these moments that I'm just waiting in anticipation for. So we get that awesome title drop, followed by a CG designed oxygen destroyer in the titles, and all of you guys go, "Wait, is that the oxygen destroyer? It sure looks like it."
I think it was Willie who really vocalized.
Yeah.
Is that the oxygen
I saw
destroyer?
it, and I didn't even think. I wasn't asking you. It just happened. I just said it. It came out before I could even process I was speaking.
I'm like, "That's right,
is
guys.
that the oxygen destroyer?"
We're going back 40 years. It's coming back.
I really loved all of the tie-ins in this. The pictures of Serizawa and just.
I've seen the picture of Serizawa, and then later, seeing the actress back. It's just like,
yeah.
Alrighty, okay, we're doing this. Okay,
fuck. Oh, it was so good because I saw her and I'm like, is that? No, it's not.
And then she started talking, mentioning, the professor and all that. And Sarah's, I'm like, that is her.
I still didn't believe it. I was thinking it was just another one, but you said that. I'm like, oh, it was. Okay, so destroy what? But and oh my god, the fucking enemy kaiju's in this thing. The
Destoroyah.
Yeah, they were fucking creepy.
They were really creepy. I like the multiform, the smaller spider multiform that is just having to fight a swarm. I mean, that's just a really cool idea. And then when they combined, I will say, I was slightly disappointed with Destoroyah's final form. I felt the final form was a little bit lackluster because it felt really stiff and it kind of just flew up and landed without a lot of like body movement, and I could see some like limitations in that.
Yeah,
so that's what happens when you have a really big, cumbersome costume.
Yeah, so I wasn't a huge fan of Destoroyah's final form, but that middle form, that when they all merge together and it does become a kaiju for the first time for that first battle. God, that was awesome.
It definitely pulls off the big kaiju, the two huge kaiju fight better than Space Godzilla did.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Destoroyah, and kind of like with you loving a smog monster, Jake, it's another monster that has multiple forms.
Yeah.
But Destoroyah, I do appreciate his design. It's one of the more popular ones. For me, it's a bit too much for Godzilla.
I could see how it could be a bit over-designed in a way. Like maybe too many legs, too many spikes.
He's definitely the busiest looking kaiju, and most of his forms are kind of like that.
But to be fair, Godzilla is essentially fighting the devil in
Yeah,
this.
I mean,
Yeah.
the allusions there were obvious. How there was definitely satanic influences in its design.
It's Satan from the Bible.
Or as Chaz said, when Destoroyah first makes his appearance in silhouette, Chaz goes, "Oh no, Dracula!"
So when does he merge into when do they all combine into the super kaiju? I said that as like a half joke because I realized that they might, but then to have it like 30 seconds later.
Willie, whatever you say during these movies will happen. So
Yeah, no, it's-
you be careful, young man.
And but I did kind of go, "Oh, come on!"
Well, you had to kind of say things to me when they first attacked Godzilla with the ice, about halfway through, and I'm like, and they said they say a period of time now he'll remain frozen, and I'm like, the perfect amount of time for him to be frozen before the final battle.
Yep.
Yeah, and but that line bugged me because he'll be frozen for 6 hours. Time's almost up.
Yeah, it really didn't come into play all that much.
Well, I mean, you
that.
have a time skip.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that bugged me though. That it was like it would be frozen for about 6 hours. Okay, let's see what we can do.
6 hours later.
Exactly. That was, in my opinion, the biggest problem I had with the movie. I feel like was that because I was like,
Well, two
I
things.
wanted to see some of that 6 hours. What? I wanted to see something happen.
Then read the Shonen Jump Tokuban if you want to have those.
Will
6
do.
hours.
Will do.
No, it doesn't exist.
Oh, fuck you. Why would you get my hopes up?
How dare you?
What do you think happened? Okay, I'll tell you what happened in that 6 hours. Destoroyah showed up and fucked shit up. Junior appeared, and they found out, oh wait, freezing him doesn't matter because he's still kind of getting hot on the inside.
One of those I wanted to see.
Yeah, I would have liked that information to have been explored, even if it was only like shown for 2 minutes.
Read the book.
Yeah, Willie, maybe you could find the Dujin where Godzilla gets
Yeah.
hot on the inside.
Well,
Get out.
So on that note, Destoroyah is considered to be the oldest Godzilla monster of all time, being at least 541 million years old
That's old.
That is cool.
A MILF.
when the pre-Cambrian era
God
ended.
damn it.
Monster, I'd like to.
Do you have a filter?
With this film being Akira Ifukube's last Godzilla score and film score, here are a few highlights from a 90s interview about his work. I did not accept the assignment for Godzilla vs. Biollante, but after the film was released, my daughter pointed out how they had used some of my music in the film. They had also made some of my music into a rock theme, and I did not like that. So my daughter encouraged me to accept the next Godzilla movie so I would have some control over how my music was used. Ishiro Honda was very knowledgeable about the score, and he had very sophisticated knowledge about music and how it should be applied in film. During the recording sessions, Mr. Honda would stand next to me when I was conducting sometimes. He wanted to see how things worked. No other director has done that.
That's cool.
I declined to work on Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla because when I looked at the script, I felt it was... How can I say it? It wasn't right. But when I read the Godzilla vs. Destoroyah script, I saw that it was connected thematically to the original Godzilla. I was also intrigued that this film was about the death of Godzilla. I was involved in the birth of Godzilla 40 years before, so I felt I should be there when he dies too. The theme for Godzilla's death was one of the most difficult pieces I have ever had to compose. In a way, it was as if I was composing the theme for my own death. When Godzilla was born, a phase of my life began. Now, Godzilla is gone, and that phase is over. Akira Ifukube passed away in 2006, living long enough to see the Godzilla series return for a second time and leaving a legacy of powerful music behind.
Salute you.
stop being depressing.
I salute you.
That's why it's so much fun to find the serendipity in these movies and knowing that we got to finish the Brosnan era and the Heisei era at the same time
yeah.
before 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like honestly,
They're celebrating anniversaries. They're bringing people back, and it just feels right.
It does feel right.
this movie is probably in my top 3 movies ever, honestly. At the very
No,
least, top
don't
10.
say
I really
that.
have to go through a list of movies that I absolutely love and enjoy and that mean a lot to me and find out where this one sits, because I know it's in the top 10 and it's probably higher.
So on a personal note, every Godzilla movie in the series holds a personal connection and significance for me. And Godzilla vs. Destoroyah is connected to a very critical time of my life. I first saw this movie around December 1999 to January 2000 at the age of 6. During this time, my newborn sister and I were facing child endangerment, leading us to be taken in by our grandparents. Although we were in a safe and loving home, the trauma I had experienced led to me growing up faster than I had ever anticipated, and I quickly realized that these movies could not protect me from the dangers of life. I could no longer find solace in them, and they began to feel trapped in a previous chapter of my life, before everything had fallen apart. I handpicked Godzilla vs. Destoroyah at a mall video store, seeing that it was the newest installment in the series. When the movie reached its finale, with Godzilla dying and Miki Sagusa saying her path with Godzilla had ended, I felt a somber acceptance. I came to terms with Godzilla's death, knowing that he could no longer keep me safe, and that our time together had passed. Even when one of my family members kept saying, "What? No, Godzilla can't die," I didn't listen to them. Because I knew that my life had changed, the series had ended, and things would never be the same again. Little did I know that I would still be here today, watching and talking about these movies that have never left me.
I want to come over and give you a hug, but there's so many cables in
That's
my
fine.
way.
You shared that emotional story with us, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
And when as I was sitting there listening to it, I couldn't help but wonder, what would it have been like, what would have happened if, hypothetically, No Time to Die came out when I was that age. What kind of effect would that have on me in my life?
That would be very interesting.
It would have, because I would have, probably, the definition of my childhood, having to watch them, die at an age where I wouldn't be able to fully separate fact from fiction. And I can only imagine, what sort of reaction I would have to that, and, how similar it would have been to what you went through.
We now come to our list of alternate titles.
It's back.
Oh boy, I can't wait to see how they incorporate Frankenstein.
With this Godzilla film being heavily advertised as the final movie, it surprisingly led to a handful of strange titles overseas. The alternate English title is Godzilla vs. Destroyer. From Greece, Godzilla Against Absolute Destroyer.
Yeah, I like that one.
From Sweden, Godzilla Meets Destroyer.
Okay.
For some tea.
Fact.
From India, The Last Godzilla.
True. A bit spoilery, but true.
From Hong Kong, Godzilla The Final Chapter, Deadly Battle of the Century.
That's my favorite.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Somehow that one feels the most Japanese.
And my personal favorite from Taiwan, Dinosaur Empire. I was really hoping for a spit take on that one.
You were pretty close. Taiwan was having to figure their shit out quite a lot back then.
There's no excuse.
Dinosaur Empire?
Yeah.
I did look up alternate titles for Die Another Day. However, they were very disappointing. It was just different literal translations of different ways to say Die Another Day.
Like Die Tomorrow.
Yeah, nothing special. Nothing fun.
Die on the morrow.
Yeah,
Live Yesterday. Jake, would you recommend Die Another Day or Godzilla vs. Destoroyah to a first-time viewer?
Die Another Day. I'm actually going to actually give it a no. Not for any negative reasons about the movie itself, but only for the fact that it is so tonally different from the rest of the series that having it be your introduction may set some wrong expectations for better or for worse. Once you're deep into Bond, once you know you like Bond, especially if you're a fan of the campier, more ridiculous Bonds, go in, give it a try. Just note that as a first watch, it is not necessarily indicative of what the rest of the series is. Destoroyah, I really struggled with yes or no on this one. And I think I've decided that yes, I would recommend it. It is such a strong step. It's such a strong first step. It's just such a great first impression. I have to recommend it. It definitely has some ties to things that came before it. The rest of the Heisei, really building up, and this one, it is a finale. That can't be denied. That it is built as a finale. However, I think it stands on its own enough. I don't think you absolutely need all the context to really get the emotional payoff that the film is going for. It's, as far as it stands right now, I consider it the best in the entire series, so how can I not recommend it?
For me, this was hard because of Godzilla versus Destoroyah. Jake hit it on the head with Die Another Day. It's fucking stupid fun. Not a good introductory. And he also hit it on the head with Destoroyah standing on its own, and you don't really need to see the other movies to get any further context. But for me, I'd recommend this one as your minimum third movie. I would not recommend it for the first because I would really like to see the first, 85, and this. I fucking loved this. It is my favorite. I cannot recommend it enough. It does stand on its own. It is amazing. A lot of it hits every point flawlessly.
For Die Another Day, I'd say yes, because even though it is one of the sillier of the Bond movies, I still feel like it's still up there when it comes to the execution of both the story and even some of the more ridiculous effects. There are better Brosnans to start with, but I feel like this one is strong enough, and you might be a little bit familiar with enough with the Bond franchise from the outside to be able to appreciate what this movie does well. For Godzilla versus Destoroyah, I would have to say it's a slim yes, because it captures a lot of the emotional impact really well for a movie that definitely has a lot to lean on when it comes to pretext. It feels like it's like one of the longer of the movies, but it makes good use of the time. It never feels like you're just kind of waiting for stuff to happen. Those 6 hours pass for a good reason.
As much as I agree with Jake that Die Another Day is not, indicative of what the entire Bond series is, the fact that I was entertained from start to finish, besides the fucking terrible theme song, I wish it wasn't in this. Yeah, I have to recommend it. Like, it's one of those over the top. You might call it dumb, but even then, it's like everything that they're achieving and all the effort that they're putting into this bombastic film is rightly there. I would totally add it to like a collection of Bond films that I would have in my own collection and ready to show other people in order to kind of get them into the series. It's definitely one of the ones that keeps getting advertised as one of, the worst examples of this or that, but I think it's a great film to start with and a great film overall. Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, as much as I wouldn't recommend it because of its connection to everything else, the fact that I keep finding it as people's either introduction film, top 10 list, or even favorite film of the series, I would say that it is one that is possible to have as a first watch to give you a taste for what the series is like, and especially the emotional core within it and how it once again taps into the dangers we face when we mess with science, even if we did it 40 years ago, and the repercussions it can have on present day.
Next time on James Bond, we enter the modern era of Bond. Well, I say modern, but it's been going on for over 15 years now. Christ, I'm old. James Bond will return in Casino Royale.
And next time on Godzilla, never send a German to do a Japanese job. When Roland Emmerich's 1998 adaptation of Godzilla disappointed audiences, Toho brought back the King of the Monsters for another go-around to rightfully reclaim his title. It's time to enter the Millennium series with Godzilla 2000. Thank you all for listening to Bond vs. Godzilla. We'll see you next time with a martini in one hand and a rubber suit in the other.
You mean we're not going to watch That's a Lot of Fish?
Fuck no!